The stars had always seemed eternal, unchanging, a steady backdrop to human ambition. But on the observation deck of Orbital Station Horizon, Captain Derek Sullivan felt the familiar constancy of space shiver beneath his feet. For 40 years, he had stared into the void through solar flares, asteroid storms, and pirate skirmishes, but tonight, the darkness was alive. It wasn't just empty space. It was waiting. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, simple, succinct, and terrifying: we declare war. Humanity had not faced a threat in a millennium, not a single interstellar conflict, not even a border dispute worth noting. And yet, the words vibrated through every channel of communication, echoing in the bones of every person on Earth: a threat. A promise. An ultimatum. Derek pressed his palm to the railing, staring at the void as if the ships themselves might materialize from the blackness. He remembered the first time he had piloted a fighter through the asteroid belt of Saturn. Danger had a face, a rhythm, a pattern. But this was different. These were not natural phenomena. Not random attacks. These were creatures, deliberate and patient, with a precision that made human science seem childish. Captain Sullivan? The soft voice behind him broke his focus. Lieutenant Ava Morales stepped onto the deck, her boots clicking against the metal floor. Her brown eyes were wide, pupils dilated with apprehension. "You've seen the message, right?" Derek didn't turn. "I saw it," he said quietly. His voice carried the weight of experience, of someone who had faced death and lived to lecture it about manners. "And yes, it says what it says." Ava's fingers twisted nervously at the edges of her uniform. How do you even respond to this? 10 centuries of peace, and suddenly, this? Derek's eyes didn't leave the stars. They've waited 1,000 years. Probably longer. Waiting for us to grow complacent, for us to forget what it means to defend ourselves. And now, they've made their move. Across the solar system, signals scrambled as alien ships slipped past sensors, sliding through space like shadows given form. Horizon's instruments screamed of gravitational distortions, energy surges, and metallic mass far exceeding anything humanity had ever built. And yet, despite the terror it could inspire, humanity's response was not panic. Not fear. Down on Earth, Jonah Beck strolled along a sunlit street in Manhattan, leash in hand, his dog barking at a fluttering pigeon. On his holowatch, a flashing alert screamed, "Aliens declare war." He ignored it. People around him paused, some glancing up at the sky, but most went about their day. Children ran past, chasing each other across the park, oblivious to the cosmic event about to unfold above them. Humanity, for all its sophistication, had grown oddly serene, almost amused. In Chicago, school classrooms buzzed with excitement rather than panic. Holographic displays projected alien warships floating in orbit. Instead of fear, children pointed, laughed, and made jokes about what the invaders might be thinking. In Los Angeles, tourists snapped selfies with shimmering projections of distant alien vessels hovering silently over the horizon. Across the planet, the same pattern repeated. Humanity smiled, even as the threat loomed like a blade over civilization. Back on Horizon, Derek Sullivan finally turned, his gray eyes locking on Ava. They expect terror. They think we'll beg, fight amongst ourselves, crumble. But humans, we're something else. We fight best when we're unafraid. Or when we're curious. And right now, curiosity is exactly what we need. Ava's voice was barely a whisper. But, what if curiosity isn't enough? Derek let out a short, bitter laugh. Curiosity is just the beginning. We've had 1,000 years of peace to study, to learn patience, to sharpen ourselves in ways the invaders can't even imagine. This war isn't going to scare us. Not in the way they think. And then, the first wave arrived. Mars orbital defense arrays, constructed over centuries and considered humanity's crowning achievement in planetary security, blinked on and then off in a flash of destruction. Alien weapons, shimmering, incomprehensible, a hybrid of plasma and matter manipulation, sliced through satellites and mining stations alike. The colonies of Jupiter and Saturn sent frantic signals, screaming for backup that would never arrive in time. And yet, humanity did not crumble. In New York,
cameras captured the alien probes landing in Central Park.
Towering, angular, impossibly dark, they moved with the grace of predatory hunters.
Humans didn't scatter.
Street performers continued their routines beneath the probe's shadows, children waved without fear, and dogs barked, demanding attention from beings whose size alone would have terrified any other species. The aliens paused, sensors flickering as they struggled to interpret these reactions. There, confused, Ava whispered from behind Derek. Her hand hovered over the console as she analyzed live data.
They're expecting screams. They're expecting chaos. But, nothing. Humans are calm. Derek's jaw tightened. It's not calm. It's calculation. Observation. Adaptation. Fear is just one tool. And right now, humans are choosing not to use it. Across Earth, General Elaine Porter orchestrated humanity's defenses.
Her office, a massive structure lined with holographic displays and tactical readouts, hummed with activity. Generals, scientists, and diplomats worked together, planning strategies that no war had required for centuries.
Yet Elaine's focus was unusual. She wasn't thinking about retaliation. She was thinking about study. Observation. Humanity's strength lay not in panic or brute force, it lay in mastery of knowledge and adaptability.
The alien ships, sensing resistance they could not categorize, began a methodical scan of human settlements. Energy waves pulsated over cities like invisible brushstrokes, probing every corner of human life. And still, humans went on about their day, cooking dinner, commuting to work, playing music.
The aliens, creatures built for dominance and conquest, paused to understand. And in that pause, they revealed a weakness. Jonah Beck, standing on a Manhattan hill with his dog, finally looked up at the sky.
The alien probe nearest him was enormous, multifaceted eyes glinting in the sunlight.
He smiled. Not out of bravado, but understanding. "They don't know us," he muttered. "Not really. They think this is fear. But this is how we fight." Derek Sullivan studied the live feeds from orbit, watching humanity below.
Every action, every calm gesture, was a calculated response to terror.
And he realized something profound: the aliens had underestimated a fundamental truth of human nature.
"They came expecting screams," he said quietly to Ava. "They came expecting chaos. Instead, they found discipline,
curiosity, resilience, and above all, joy. Fear is optional. They won't understand that until it's too late." From the observation deck, Derek gazed into the void again. The darkness was still alive, still waiting. But he no longer feared it.
Humanity, in its 1,000 years of peace, had learned the greatest weapon of all, the unshakable calm of a species that refuses to bow to terror. And as the first alien probe hovered above Earth, its sensors scanning, Derek Sullivan allowed the faintest of smiles.
War had begun. But humanity was ready.
2 weeks had passed since the first alien ships appeared above Earth, and humanity had settled into a strange rhythm. The invaders were everywhere, vast obsidian shapes drifting through the atmosphere, orbiting colonies, and skimming along the edges of human cities. Yet, despite their imposing presence, the streets remained alive with ordinary life.
Traffic lights blinked, children laughed, and dogs chased holographic drones across sprawling parks.
The alien fleet was a silent threat, but the world's pulse did not falter. Captain Derek Sullivan stood again on the observation deck of Horizon, the curved glass stretching above and below him, showing Earth in a swirl of clouds and light.
Lieutenant Ava Morales was beside him, eyes glued to the displays tracking alien movements.
Each dot represented a vessel of immense power, capable of annihilating entire cities in minutes.
Yet, Derek's expression was calm, almost reflective. "They're learning," Derek said.
His voice carried that same quiet certainty that had unnerved Ava weeks earlier. "Every maneuver we make, every evacuation, every distraction, they analyze it, they adapt.
But their adaptation is slow.
They can't comprehend what they've encountered."
Ava glanced at him, tension in her brow. "Humans aren't panicking, Derek. Not a single casualty yet, but they're escalating. Their weapons, they're experimenting. if they figure out a way to strike faster than we can respond. Derek raised a hand. And we'll be ready. Humans fight differently. We improvise. We anticipate. They attack, and we respond not with fear, but with precision. And creativity. Below, on the surface of Earth, the first real test had begun. In New York, the aliens had concentrated on a single target, Midtown Manhattan. Energy beams, crackling and bright, streaked across the skyline, designed to incinerate. Buildings that had stood for centuries trembled. Windows shattered in a shower of glittering glass. Panic should have followed, but humans moved with uncanny calm. Autonomous defense units, sleek machines of human engineering, deployed in perfect coordination. Traffic drones lifted children and the elderly out of harm's way, while specialized shielding arrays bent the alien beams harmlessly around crowded areas. Scientists directed energy pulses that disrupted alien targeting systems, causing the invaders' own weapons to backfire in brilliant arcs of blue and gold. On a nearby hill, Jonah Beck stood with a group of volunteers from his neighborhood. He held a compact device that interfaced with local defense drones. "Don't just watch," he shouted, adrenaline surging. "Move. Guide them. Let's show them what humans can do." A small girl nearby, maybe 8 or 9, tapped a holographic console. The alien ship above her shimmered, its sensors blinking erratically. It paused mid-flight, as if startled by her action. Jonah's smile widened. Humans did not merely survive, they adapted, they manipulated, they turned the threat into opportunity. Meanwhile, Dr. Meredith Lane, a xenopsychologist monitoring alien communications, sat in a darkened lab lit by the glow of multiple holographic displays. Alien pulses, vibrations of energy and light, were flooding Earth's networks, attempting to probe human behavior. Meredith analyzed the patterns, her brow furrowed. "They're trying to intimidate us," she said aloud, speaking to the empty room. "They don't understand us. They expect fear. But we fight differently. They can't read it." Every display of normal life, every smile, every calculated countermeasure, it's overwhelming them. Her assistant, Raj Patel, glanced up from the monitors. "Do you really think they can't adapt?" "They're intelligent." Meredith shook her head. "They're intelligent, yes. But their intelligence is tactical. They calculate outcomes based on predictable reactions. Humans are unpredictable. We combine logic with creativity, instinct with patience. That combination, it's a force they can't quantify." Back in orbit, Derek and Ava observed the alien fleet's reaction to Earth's countermeasures. Ships paused mid-strike, beams faltered, and probes retracted slightly from human cities. Derek's eyes narrowed, a glint of triumph in their gray depths. "They expected chaos," he muttered. "They expected screaming and submission. Instead, they find ingenuity, patience, and defiance. And worst of all for them, they find joy." Ava's fingers danced across the console. "They're scanning, Derek. Trying to figure out the patterns in human behavior. But every scan comes back with randomness. Normal life continues. Children, music, traffic. They can't interpret it." "Exactly," Derek said. He leaned closer, voice dropping. "That's the moment of advantage. They can't predict us, and we can anticipate them. It's a dance, Ava. And humanity knows the steps." On the streets below, the human counterstroke was precise, elegant, and deadly, not in the traditional sense, but in its efficiency. Alien constructs that had touched cities now lay disabled, trapped by energy fields, or rerouted by drones. Human engineers, students, and volunteers worked together seamlessly, improvising solutions in real time. They fought not with hatred, but with curiosity, with the thrill of solving the ultimate puzzle. Jonah Beck, moving through Manhattan like a conductor of chaos and order, laughed as one alien probe twisted midair, ensnared by a newly deployed energy net. "They didn't see that coming," he shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. Around him, volunteers cheered, guiding drones and machinery with precise gestures. Every small victory strengthened the pattern: the humans would not break.
In the Pentagon, General Elaine Porter observed the situation with a mixture of awe and satisfaction. The aliens were intelligent, formidable, and relentless, but humanity's ingenuity was proving superior. "They think in terms of destruction," she said, voice calm but firm.
"We think in terms of survival and adaptation. Observe, respond, improvise. Every attack they launch is an opportunity. Humanity never misses those opportunities." Derek watched as another alien strike targeted the Chicago skyline. The city shimmered under a translucent shield, energy pulses redirected and neutralized.
Children laughed from school rooftops, oblivious to the invisible war raging above them.
Humans were thriving under pressure.
Not just surviving, but evolving in real time to face an enemy that could have destroyed them.
Then, as if the universe itself were taking note, the alien fleet began to hesitate. Their attacks slowed, their formations faltered.
The invaders, accustomed to predictable fear, were confronted with a species that did not respond in expected patterns. Humanity smiled at them.
Humanity laughed at the chaos.
And humanity, most importantly, fought like humans had never fought before, not with hate, but with the sheer brilliance of an unbroken will.
Derek turned to Ava, voice low and resolute. "They don't understand why we're smiling. That's their mistake. Fear is optional. Joy, determination, that's unstoppable. They came expecting to break us, and instead, they're the ones being tested."
Ava exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly.
"So, we keep doing this? Keep fighting like this?" Derek's smile was faint, but confident. "Exactly.
Every strike they make, every attempt to intimidate, they feed our advantage.
We adapt faster than they can anticipate. And when they realize that, it will be too late. Humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive. And in that, we always win." On the surface, Jonah Beck guided a final set of countermeasures against the alien probe hovering over Times Square. It shimmered, confused and paralyzed by human unpredictability.
He grinned, looking around at the small team of volunteers beside him. "They came to destroy us," he said softly, voice almost lost in the hum of defensive drones. "But all they've done is show us what we're capable of." From orbit, Derek Sullivan allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Humanity had faced terror, incomprehensible power, and the weight of cosmic judgment, and had not merely survived. They had adapted, improvised, and smiled through the chaos. The aliens had learned a lesson that no calculation could predict: war with humans was never about fear. It was about understanding that a species capable of such joy, such creativity, and such resilience could never truly be conquered. And so, the first counterstroke had been delivered. Humanity had not only defended itself but had begun to turn the tide, not with hatred, not with destruction, but with the brilliance of a species that refused to bow to terror.
The war had begun. And humanity was already winning.
By the third month, the alien fleet had begun to realize the gravity of their miscalculation.
Humanity did not respond with terror. Humanity did not collapse under the shadow of impossible power. Instead, humans adapted. They countered.
They turned every attack into a lesson, every strike into an opportunity, and every threat into a puzzle to solve.
Captain Derek Sullivan stood once more on the observation deck of Horizon, staring down at Earth. Cities shimmered under the protective energy grids humans had devised.
Drones flitted through the air, guiding civilians to safety, directing alien strikes into carefully calculated traps.
Humanity was alive, and it was thriving.
The aliens had expected chaos. Instead, they found coordination, ingenuity, and defiance, and most importantly, they found smiles. Lieutenant Ava Morales leaned against the railing beside him, eyes wide as she watched alien warships hover above New York.
"It's incredible," she said quietly.
"They've deployed their full fleet, and still, humans are calm."
Derek's expression was solemn, yet triumphant. They don't understand what they're facing. They expect submission. They expect screaming in terror. But humans, we fight differently. Not out of hatred, not out of desperation, but out of intellect, creativity, and joy. That's what terrifies them. Across the globe, General Elaine Porter coordinated humanity's defense from the Pentagon. Holographic maps flickered with patterns of alien vessels, projected energy fields, and counterstrike zones. Her voice, steady and commanding, echoed in the command center. Every attack they launch is an opportunity to learn. Every advance they make is a chance to exploit a weakness. Humanity does not panic. Humanity adapts. Humanity wins. Remember that.
Down in Manhattan, Jonah Beck moved through the chaos like a conductor guiding a symphony. Alien probes swooped down, their appendages slicing at streets, yet humans continued to act with uncanny precision. Autonomous vehicles formed barricades in seconds, drones intercepted energy blasts, and civilians evacuated with the calm efficiency of a species that had faced adversity and emerged stronger. Jonah's grin widened as an alien probe faltered under a cascade of redirected energy, spinning in midair before crashing harmlessly into a skyscraper's empty courtyard. "They don't get it," he whispered to a volunteer beside him, voice carrying a mix of exhilaration and disbelief.
"They came expecting us to break. But all they've done is show us how strong we are, how clever we are, how unshakable we are." In the labs below, Dr. Meredith Lane monitored the alien communication network.
Pulses of energy and light raced across Earth's systems, probing human behavior, attempting to measure fear.
Meredith's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the data.
"They can't read us," she murmured. "They expect predictable reactions, panic, chaos, despair.
Instead, they see resilience. Ingenuity.
Life continuing as if nothing has changed. And worst of all for them, joy.
That joy, they can't quantify it, can't anticipate it, can't weaponize it. That is our advantage."
Raj Patel, her assistant, looked up with awe.
"So, all this time, we've been preparing for war without even realizing it." Meredith nodded slowly. "Exactly.
Every invention, every strategy, every lesson learned in peace has been a preparation for this moment. We didn't just survive 1,000 years of peace, we honed ourselves."
The aliens came expecting weakness.
Instead, they found perfection in patience, in adaptability, and in courage.
Above Earth, the alien fleet paused for the first time in weeks. Their warships hovered uncertainly, sensors scanning cities that remained vibrant with life. Derek Sullivan watched as their formations wavered, as if the universe itself had forced a pause in their attack.
"They're starting to understand," Ava said, eyes narrowing.
"But they can't comprehend it. They don't know what to do."
Derek allowed himself a rare smile.
"Exactly. They can't understand the human mind, human ingenuity, human joy. That's why we're winning.
Every strike we deflect, every trap we set, every laugh we hear, it all tells them one thing: fear is optional.
And we choose not to use it." Jonah Beck, now standing with dozens of volunteers in Central Park, guided a network of energy fields and drones to corral an alien probe into a containment trap.
The vessel shimmered, twisting in midair as it attempted to escape. Children laughed in the streets, dogs barked at the shadows of the massive ship, and Jonah felt a surge of awe. Humans were not merely surviving, they were thriving in the presence of annihilation.
"This isn't war," he said quietly, almost to himself. This is humanity showing the universe who we are."
The aliens, sensing that their attacks no longer intimidated, attempted a new strategy: overwhelming force. Beams of plasma scorched the horizon, constructs descended from orbit, and sensors pulsed with massive energy signatures.
Yet every move was countered.
Autonomous systems intercepted beams, energy shields rerouted attacks, and human ingenuity transformed devastation into opportunity. From orbit, Derek activated a beacon designed to communicate not threats, but a new kind of signal: patterns of human life. Music, laughter, art, and ingenuity pulsed through the alien sensors, overwhelming their understanding. For the first time, the invaders hesitated, as if confronted not with a species to be conquered, but a civilization impossible to predict or dominate.
"They came for fear," Derek said softly, voice echoing in the observation deck. "They came for war. And what did they find? Life. Joy. Defiance. Curiosity. That is unassailable.
Meredith Lane's voice crackled over global communication channels.
They are asking us why we are not afraid, she translated from the alien pulses.
They cannot comprehend our response.
Humans do not surrender to fear. Humans embrace life. And in that embrace, we are invincible. The alien fleet, for the first time, began to retreat.
One by one, massive shadowed vessels slid back into orbit, then into deep space. They had arrived expecting a century of terror, and instead had found humans smiling. On Earth, the world exhaled collectively. Cities erupted in cautious celebrations, people embracing, cheering, and laughing in the streets.
Jonah Beck watched a child hand a flower to a robotic drone, the symbol of human ingenuity turned tender. We didn't just survive, he murmured. We thrived.
In orbit, Derek Sullivan finally allowed himself to relax. The alien fleet had withdrawn, but humanity had learned something far more valuable than victory. They had discovered the profound truth of their existence: fear is optional, but resilience, joy, and unity are immutable. Ava glanced at him, eyes wide with wonder.
We won, without a single life lost. Derek smiled faintly. No. We won not by avoiding loss, but by showing the universe what it means to be human.
Strength, creativity, laughter, courage in the face of incomprehensible odds.
That's our weapon. And it's eternal.
General Elaine Porter addressed the world from the Pentagon, her voice broadcast across every channel. The aliens have declared war, and humanity responded not with fear, but with brilliance.
We have reminded the cosmos that humans do not yield. We have reminded ourselves of what we are capable of. This is more than victory. This is proof.
Proof that life, joy, and ingenuity are stronger than any threat.
From the hills of Manhattan, Jonah Beck watched the last alien vessel fade into the dark void of space.
Children ran past, laughter ringing in the air. Dogs barked at the shadows of receding ships.
Humans smiled.
The thousand-year peace had ended, and yet, humanity had emerged stronger, wiser, and unshakably alive.
Derek Sullivan, standing on horizon, looked down at the planet bathed in the warm glow of the sun.
They came to declare war, he said, voice calm and steady. But all they found was humanity. And in that truth, the human race understood itself fully, unbroken, unbowed, and undefeatable, not through terror, but through the enduring power of the human spirit, and the simple, profound choice to smile.